Good evening, and you're very welcome to Around the Grounds here at Finalwhistle.ie. This is our second week running the weekly results show here at Finalwhistle.ie. We had 8 games running the course of tonight. We should have had 9, but the Treaty United game against Athlone was called off due to an unplayable surface down at the Markets Field in Limerick. So we only had the 8 runners tonight. The first game in which we will be going to is the game at Dalymount Park between Bohemians and Dundalk. Bohemians didn't get their season underway last weekend due to bad weather conditions, so they got their first game underway tonight at Dalymount Park against Dundalk. Our reporter Kieran Callan was at the game for us. Kieran, what was the game like as a result?
Well, good evening from a very loud but boisterous Dalymount Park. A 2-2 draw here Bohemians were pegged back twice during the course of the contest. The first opening goal came from Jordan Flores, the ghost of Christmas past when it comes to Dundalk fans. He was a former Dundalk FC player. He headed home just after about 24 minutes. But the goal was short-lived and the celebration was just short-lived as Patrick Hoban pegged back of it about 90 seconds later. Then Promise Omachere just before halftime scored a goal. I did say in my text report that the goal, literally, I couldn't describe it. I couldn't do it justice. A fantastic cross in. First of all, the advantage played by the referee was absolutely excellent. Torna crossed it into Promise. On Promise, but the ball was just slightly behind him. He used his back heel to flick it over the goalkeeper to put them back into the lead. Dundalk FC, it must be said, in the second half were much, much stronger, very much more composed. They made changes very early on in the second half. David McMillan brought a different type of dynamic to their front line, while Pat Hoban, as we all know, he's very good at holding up the ball, hassling defenders. McMillan gives a little bit more pace and stretched the Bohemians' defence just that little bit more. And that paid dividends midway through the second half when a cross in from Daniel Kelly was headed past James Talbot by Stephen Bradley, an absolutely deft header which hit off the post and into the back of the net. This game could have gone either way. Promise Omachere and Jamie Mullins both had chances for Bohemians, whereas up down in the other end, Mark Connolly had a gilt-edged chance in the second, just on the stroke in 90 minutes, to head it from a Keith Ward free kick. But speaking of Keith Ward, he also had a free kick which sent Bohemians and this entire crowd into silence because they thought it was about to hit the back of the net and it just whistled past James Talbot's post. In fairness, a 2-2 draw might not be what either side would have wanted, particularly for Stephen O'Donnell and Dundalk, but a fair result all in all.
Perfect, Kieran. Thank you for that report. Now, we will stay in the capital and we will move over toward UCD, and they were taking on Finn Harps. Of course, Finn Harps didn't get their game away as well last week due to adverse weather conditions, but UCD did end up playing Shamrock Rovers at Tallaght Stadium. This time around, they were at home against a team that looked like they probably will end up fighting in a relegation battle with them. Watching that game for us was John Park. And John, how did the game as a contest work in the end? What were your thoughts of it?
Well, it's kind of a struggle to come up with words to describe it, really. It was a very poor game in terms of quality. I mean, there was talk about the weather before the game, and that kind of came to really affect how it played out. There were a lot of inaccurate long balls, defenders going route one and it just going straight through to the opposition goalkeeper. It really just had very little quality. But the moments when the ball was down on the ground, it was Harps who were really pushing the game forward and getting most of the chances. The first chance came for Yo-Yo Mardi, who nice flick down by new signing Filip Mihailovic. He knocked it to Mardi, who turned and shot, and it was a good save from the keeper. Then a mistake from John Ryan, who was signed just the other day by UCD, let Barry McNamee through on goal, who tried to just caress the ball past the keeper, but it was really a poor effort. That was all that really happened in the first half, and I think both managers generally would have been very disappointed with their team's performance. They came out second half, and actually the best chance came for UCD when Evan Caffrey was played in by Sean Brennan. Little dinked ball into the box, and there was Caffrey to chest it and try and flick it over the keeper. but it pinged off the top of the bar and onto the roof of the net. Filip Mihailovic again had a couple of chances, a good header at the back post, a beautiful ball in from the left back from deep. And there he was, he rose highest, and it was again another good save. There was a controversial moment where UCD were denied a penalty and Colin Whelan was actually booked by referee David Dunn for going down. It looked to me like there might have been contact, but the referee's word goes, and that's that. All in all, a very poor game and not great for UCD. They look more solid, but you'd expect them to be trying to get points from, or 3 points from games against teams who are expected to be around them. For Finn Harps, Mihailovic looks like he could be a good signing, but again, they weren't very inspiring either.
Perfect, John. Thank you for that report. Now we will move to Head in the Game Park, where Drogheda United were looking to kickstart their season with a win as they took on Damien Duff's Shelburne. Watching that game for us was Con Sheehan. Con, it looked fairly comprehensive in the end.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this fixture announced, I kind of knew it was never going to be one-sided in the first half. It was always going to be a matter of one team breaking the deadlock and then imposing themselves on the game, sort of. And it very much played out like that. Story the first half was really half chances and scrappy play in the middle. As things began, Shells were determined to run out from the back and play out from the back in general. But Drogheda broke it up well a lot in the middle. A. Dervin was really the spark for Shells, and if anything was going to come out of the first half, it looked like it would come from him. And his play was quite incisive. But really, that was it for the first half, and neither team really took control. Second half, as soon as the deadlock was broken, 53 minutes in, Dan Hawkins, formerly of Finn Harps, signed with Shells on a free transfer. And the ball was kind of pulled back to him in scrappy fashion on the byline, and I think it was Mark Hughes couldn't really get it clear. He was kind of stretching, and as it came back just inside the edge of the box for Dan Hawkins, he slotted it away calmly. And as soon as that happened, and this seemed to be a problem with Drogheda last season as well, as soon as a goal goes in, they're doing well and their whole game plan kind of just evaporates and they kind of look a bit lost. And Shells from there looked confident. Their touch was more crisp, and they were more incisive from then on. And even though Drogheda did push on and had Shells boxed in for a lot of the second half, it really felt like Shells were still the more likely of the two to score again as they continued to threaten on the break. Jack Moylan again impressed last week, and he was very energetic again for Shells. And Drogheda fought hard. Probably their best chance was, or maybe kind of the main moment where Shells fans had their hearts in their mouth, was when Dean Williams, new signing for Drogheda this season, had a very innovative free kick, drilled it low under the wall, but Lewis Webb in goal for Shells saved well, and then things were wrapped up. Not that they needed to be. It never really felt like Drogheda were going to get the equaliser, but things were wrapped up when Mark Coyle actually ran clear of the entire Drogheda team who were chasing him back. Kind of Torres against Barcelona-esque in that Champions League semi-final years ago, and he slotted it past Colin McCabe, and that was things wrapped up there.
Perfect, Colin. Thank you for the report. We will move on now to what seemed to be the game of the week, judging by what we were previewing it midweek on the podcast. It was the clash between Derry and Shamrock Rovers at the Ryan McBride Brandywell Stadium. Watching that for us was Sean Crosby. Plenty of late drama at the Brandywell, Sean, it has to be said.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly a game that could definitely be defined as a game of two halves. The opening 45 was tense and kind of feisty, kind of what you expect from a big clash like this. Both sides created a few chances, but were unable to really put anything away. Forced one or two good saves from either keepers, but like I said, scoreless at the half. Derry looking slightly like the better side at the break, and a couple of minutes into the second, the game came to life. Derry getting the goal that they probably felt like they deserved. Brandon Kavanagh going down the box thanks to a push from Jack Byrne, and it was Will Patching who slotted the ball past Manus, stutter run up, gave him the eye, sent him the wrong way completely. And I think Derry would have felt very disappointed when Dylan Watts, who came off the bench for Rovers, managed to get the equaliser. For 73 minutes. Derry dominated and looked like the better side, and it was a free kick from Watts. The wall not doing its job. He's curled around the wall, put it home to equalise, and it looked like a game where Derry would kind of maybe have to take a few positives, but it would be somewhat bittersweet with the feeling that maybe they could kind of deserve a little more. Rovers not looking like the team that we saw last year up until that Watts equaliser. They didn't look like the same kind of sharpness they always have. Jack Byrne misfiring completely, like with his deliveries and general playmaking, and then obviously giving away the penalty. And Rovers kind of would have felt a little bit lucky, I feel like, to come away with the point. But right at the end, 95 minutes, virtually the last kick of the game, Roberto Lopez picks up the ball in his own half. It looks like a simple ball back to Manus, and he completely scuffs it straight to Jamie McGonigal, who runs through, and it still wasn't easy for him. He still had all to do, 2 or 3 players ahead of him. He goes past them and puts it right into the roof of the net. Manus, no chance at all. And watching it there, like the scenes in Brandywell were unbelievable, and I feel like they'll be over the moon tonight in Derry.
Perfect, Sean. Thank you for that report. Now we will head to Turner's Cross in Cork, where John Caulfield's Galway United were in action against Cork. A return for John Caulfield down to Leeside, of course, previously managing the Rebel Army a couple of years ago. Galway, of course, didn't play last weekend, but Cork were coming off the back of a massive drudging, a 6-0 win. They obviously were looking to build on that result tonight. Watching that game for us live at Turner's Cross was Sam Curtis. Sam, how did the game play as a contest in the end?
Yeah, Diarmuid, well, I suppose you mentioned the man himself there, John Caulfield, and it was really a typical John Caulfield masterclass, you have to say. He wasn't on the touchline tonight, unfortunately, as he was serving suspension, so he was up in the nosebleeds with the rest of us. But yeah, I mean, Cork pretty much dominated for the most part of the game, especially in the first half. First 20 minutes or so in particular, Dylan McGlade really carrying his form. And this game, like last week where he got that hat-trick up in Bray, really causing problems in that right flank. Unfortunately, he had to go off injured on 23 minutes. Unfortunately, it looked like his knee, maybe, we're not sure yet, but we'll confirm that when we hear more news on that one. But yeah, Cork, I mean, they didn't really let that kind of deflate them. They continued to dominate the ball. Keane Bargery went close in 28 minutes. They had a ball cleared off the line as well. But then just out of nowhere, completely against their own play really on 35 minutes. The ball, Wilson Moweru, a new signing for Galway. Lovely little run down the left-hand side. A nice back heel then into David Hurley, who crossed, which found in the end Ed McCarthy, whose shot found the roof of Dave Harrington's net. And yeah, Galway go up 1-0. And from there, then second half, very, very physical. And Wilson Moreira, who had been one of the heroes for the Galway goal, he got a second yellow card on 50 minutes, and they were consigned into 10 men. Galway, Cork continued to dominate the ball, but they just couldn't find that crucial breakthrough to at least take a point from this game. Although they did have the ball in the net on 80 minutes. Barry Coffey, his goal was ruled out for offside. They went close then very late on 88 minutes. Keane Bargery's shot, though, just rolled to the left and wide. A special mention to Galway goalkeeper as well, Conor Kearns. He was fantastic and made a couple of brilliant saves tonight. Really, really impressive. But yeah, overall a disappointing result for Cork. Brilliant for Galway as they land the first row in the race for promotion in front of 4,994. That must be close anyway to the record for an attendance at a first division game, and it's just a shame from a Cork perspective, I suppose, that they did not get at least a point, which they probably deserved on the balance of play.
Perfect, Sam. Thank you for that report. Now we will stay in Munster, but we'll move to the southeast, where another early title challenger in the first division emerged in Waterford last week, picking up a heavy win, let's say, in that one. They were playing their first game at home at the RSC tonight. They took on Bray, who had 6 put past them last week by Cork. Watching that for us was Brandon O'Callaghan. Brandon, do Waterford still look like they're in a title challenge?
They do, Diarmuid. The second half tonight now, as the crowd was getting a little bit edgy. But the first half, the attacking display Waterford put on in the first half was excellent. They came out with the blocks early with a couple of chances. Eddie Nolan flicking over. They had a penalty appeal turned away. But Louis Britton was a danger throughout. The Bray defence really struggled to deal with him. He had a couple of chances, a couple of warning signs. He gave an attempted lob over Michael Kelly early on after a through ball from Anthony Wordsworth. Just got a little bit too much on it to put it over the bar. 27 minutes then, he got his goal. A brilliant cross into the box from Richard Taylor, who was a thorn in Bray's side down that left flank all night. He put the low cross into the box. Hugh Douglas could only kind of slice it into the pad of Louis Britton. 6 yards out, he made no mistake putting the ball into the back of the net. Second half then, a little bit of a cagey affair. Nothing really happening in the first 10-15 minutes. Waterford introduced Roland Dodo and Keane Cavagna then with about 20-25 minutes to go, and Cavagna injected fresh life into Waterford's attack, almost getting on the end of another brilliant ball in from Richard Taylor. Kind of looked like they needed the second goal, but at the same time Bray really didn't offer much to trouble Brian Murphy at the other end. Keith Dawson had a chance with about 10 minutes to go. Kind of a scuffed effort into the ground that Murphy was alert to the danger. Other than that, Waterford held on well for the 3 points. Look like they'll be title challengers for the rest of the season.
Perfect, Brendan. Thank you for that report. That win, of course, sees Waterford go up to 6 points in the table, which is great for them to win their first and opening 2 games. Now, we will stay in Munster. Another team that we're taking action tonight were Cove Ramblers. Now, Cove didn't, of course, start again last week. This was their first game at home at Coleman Park. They took on Wexford, who, of course, suffered another heavy loss last weekend as well. Watching that game for us was PJ Ahern. PJ, what was the result at the end?
It was a dogged and defiant performance for Wexford. They were full value for their come from behind win against Cove Ramblers in St. Coleman's Park tonight. It was a pulsating end-to-end contest, opened up on 17 minutes when Wexford substitute Thomas Constantine pounced to poke home from following a Sean Barron parry from an Aaron Dobb shot. Following Dinny Kern warning shot for the visitors and against the run of play, Ben Ione Whitmarsh forced an error which forced a deflection to put Cove back in front 2-1. Earlier in the first half, Jack Larkin had opened the scoring with a wonderful looping ball over the top of Paul Hunt. The game turned on 75 minutes, with Cove Ramblers making a substitution, and they were trying to settle for the 2-1 lead. They went to 4-5-1 to try and defend the lead with 15 minutes to go. The play continued to open up. The more Cove tried to shut it down. With 8 minutes remaining, Dinny Corkin showed great control and strength to take the ball down to put Ian Ryan's side back on level terms. The visitors' luck was in when in the final minute of normal time, Cove's Brendan Frahill saw red for denying a goal-scoring opportunity by handling the ball. Dinny Corkin stepped up to fire the resulting penalty down the middle past Cove keeper Sean Barron. And look, it was a quality performance. Let's rewind momentarily to the start of the game in front of a solid crowd of close to 800 people. Wexford did have the better of the early possession. Ramblers showed their teeth on 10 minutes when Danny O'Connell had a great chance, and soon after Dale Holland fired high with the goal at his mercy, going for power over placement. Paul Hunt, the returning former Rambler, had a number of sharp saves, including a save with his feet to allow the game's first corner. Ben Ione, Whitmarsh, Jack Larkin, Danny O'Connell were involved in all things positive for Cove in the first half. Whitmarsh's tenacity and hunger allowed him to steal back possession from Wexford free kick, which set up a 3-1 situation, which enabled Larkin to loop the ball over Hunt and into the net. It's a disappointing start to Cove Ramblers' centenary celebrations, but Wexford were full value for their bravery tonight, and they were duly rewarded with a 3-2 victory.
Perfect, PJ. Thank you for that report. Now, our final game of the night took place at Richmond Park, where St. Pat's took on Sligo. Of course, St. Pat's looking to build on their 3-0 win last week against Shelbourne. They were in action against Sligo. Watching that game for us was Matthew O'Donnell. Matthew, what was the result like at the end for St. Pat's?
Well, to be honest, it was a poor performance from St. Pat's. They never really seemed to get going, to be honest, until they equalised in the 80th minute. Before that, it was more or less kind of all Sligo throughout the game. Sligo came firing out the blocks. Aidan Keena, who was just a menace all night, struck the crossbar inside the first 10 minutes and then somehow had a shot cleared off the line 2 minutes after that. Sligo were well worth their money as well when they took the lead. in the 40th minute, following a great cross from Adam McDonald that found Colin Horgan at the back post, and they went in 1-0 up. And the second half kind of started like how the first half ended. Sligo again creating good chances, good balls across the box. St. Pat's best chance came the 50th minute, I think, through an Owen Doyle strike, but he couldn't really connect with it, and it was saved easily by Ed McGinty. Then Sligo then doubled their advantage after a great ball that was put down the line for Keena, who turned Joe Redmond inside out, and his shot was actually deflected then off Redmond and into the back of the net over helpless Anang. And then it wasn't then until after, like I said, when St. Pat's equalised 2 minutes later through Olo Abuabi. He fired in a great shot which flew in off the crossbar, and barring a late scare where Jack Scott hit the crossbar with 10 minutes to go, with 2 minutes to go, Pats didn't really do much else, to be honest. Sligo thoroughly deserved that victory.
Perfect, Matthew. Thank you for that report. Now that looks to bring us to the end of our show. So what we'll do is we'll just give you the results again, just in case you haven't been watching it. Bohemians 2, Dundalk 2, Derry 2, Shamrock Rovers 1, Drogheda 0, Shelburne 2, St. Pat's 1, Sligo 2, and UCD 0, Harps 0 are the results in the Premier Division. And in the First Division, we had Cove Ramblers 2, Wexford 3, Cork City 0, Galway United 1, Waterford FC 1, Bray Wanderers 0. And that wrapped up the First Division games. Of course, the win for Derry sees them top the table in the Premier Division, and the win for Waterford, of course, topping the First Division as well. Now, we do have more action coming on Monday in the Premier Division. We have another round of games coming up for you around then. We will have another Around the Grounds to come up on Monday as well for you to take a look at that. You'll see it at the bottom of your screen there on Monday. Bohemians take on St. Patrick's Athletic, Derry City take on Sligo, Dundalk play Finn Harps, and UCD take on Shelburne. All those games kick off at 7:45, and then at Tallaght Stadium, Shamrock Rovers will play Drogheda, and that game kicks off at 8 o'clock. Now, we will be this will be available to rewatch if anyone is looking to watch it again, just in case you missed us on live, and we'll be back Monday and, of course, next Friday again for another round of games. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.